Hey everybody, welcome to today's Element of Short Stories lesson. We're going to start out with familiarizing you with the elements so that you'll be able to fill out the element sheet. This is Mrs. Sholmes, and you're in the flipped classroom, Remote Studio 220. So some of the elements of a flipped classroom and also of a short story are setting, which equals time and place and duration, characters, which are static or dynamic, antagonists, protagonists, literary conflicts, which are internal and external, structure, exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. You also have your basic literary devices. Some are familiar, some are new. Foreshadowing, flashback, symbolism, and irony. You have themes, and you have the point of view. Omniscient, all-knowing, first person, and third person. So let's get started here. The setting is the time and place and duration in which the action takes place. The Catcher in the Rye takes place in New York. The Lord of the Flies, a desert island in the future. The Bean Tree, Arizona and Oklahoma in the 1980s. So each story has a different time, a different place, and a different duration. And there are several kinds of characters. Static characters never change. For instance, Curly was always a bad guy, and Lenny was always a good guy. They never change. Curly's wife never changed. Dynamic characters change. For instance, Keno, very kind, wouldn't hurt an ant, and then suddenly he was killing the ants, right? Loved his wife. Later on, he was knocking her down and beating her up and murdering people. Very dynamic character. He changed. Juana listened to her husband, did everything he said, and then eventually changed and started stealing the pearl and trying to get rid of it to save her family. So they were very dynamic characters. What a great book. We have some character types. Let me move myself up just a little bit so you can see Batman a little better, if I can. Let me see. Maybe not. Okay, the protagonist is a good guy. Batman's a good guy. The prefix pro means good, like in pro football. Antagonist is a bad guy, and the prefix anti means against or the opposite of. There's the evil Joker. And there's always minor characters, three kinds. There's protagonists, antagonists, and minor characters. And the minor characters are other characters in the story that are less important, but they play a large part in the story, such as Slim in Of Mice and Men. He's important, but he's still a third level minor character. And then you have literary conflicts. There are two kinds. There are internal and external. If you don't have any literary conflicts, you must be reading a math textbook, because there are conflicts in your history, and there are conflicts in literature. Let's take a look. A conflict is a struggle between two or more forces, or fighting. Internal is person versus self, right? What's going on in your head? You know, I'm not going to walk down that street where that person is I don't like. I'm not going to do that. You know, internal struggle. I'm not going to have another ice cream. I'm not going to fight with my brother. That's your internal struggle. External is something else. Person versus person, right? Curly and Lenny, right? Person versus person. Also external. Person versus society. Lenny was mentally challenged, but they didn't understand that. So everywhere he went, he had struggles. Person versus society. You have person versus environment, right? The environment can be really anything. It can be any wild animals. It can be weather, hurricanes, anything like that. So, you know, really bad weather, getting washed away. Your house gets washed away, like in the Great Dust Bowl of the same time period as of Mice and Men would be person versus environment. And then person versus destiny, right? Your fate, things that can't control. Kind of like, you know, what happened to Lenny. He was destined to have something bad happen. He'd already had like a couple close shaves, right, with touching girls' dresses and things, and no one understood him. Society did not understand him, so it was only a matter of time before his destiny led him to something really bad. because he was really someone that no one understood. Literary conflicts, very important. You can use them anytime. You can even use these on the Regents. These things are gold. So here's your short story structure. Notice I didn't stutter at that time. Exposition is always the beginning, and because it's a short story, it's usually compressed and small. It's all the background information you get in the beginning. First page. It's always quite short because it's a short story, whereas in To Kill a Mockingbird, it was like 10 chapters, right? And you have rising action. Conflicts and characters are developed quickly. The problems stack up fast. It's exciting. I love short stories. Then you have the climax. That's the peak of the action. That's the top of Freytag's pyramid, which I know you did learn. Now I'm just going to show you a picture at the next slide to remind you. But that's like da-da-da, you know. Falling action is when the action winds down and the tension eases up afterneath. That's a good word. I'm like Shakespeare, making up my own words. When the tension slowly winds down. I'll let that one alone. And then resolution or denouement, which means a nicely resolved ending put together in a nice package. It's been full circle. Most short stories don't end that way, but they do occasionally. And here's Freytag. See exposition here, rising action, climax, falling action, and the denouement or resolution, right? Now you have to have a few literary devices. Usually a good writer will use many, and they overlap. That's why you're reading that short story, because it's brilliantly written. You only have to find 3 or 4. So let's go for the most obvious ones, right? There's a huge list in the files and teams of all the literary elements we'll be using all year long, but you only need to know a couple today. And some of them are not new, and some of them you may have forgotten. The first one is foreshadowing. That's a hint or a clue in the story about something's going to come. Symbolism, when one thing represents something completely different, such as this doesn't mean 2, it means peace, or V for victory, symbolizes a lot of things. You have flashback, when a character explains a scene from outside the story's time frame, usually something in the past. And irony 3 ways, because you need to know all 3 types. Verbal irony, when there's a contrast, that's a typo, there's a contrast between what's said and what's meant. Situational irony, actions have the opposite outcomes from the intention. And dramatic irony, when the audience knows the truth and the characters don't know it. Then we have some symbols. I just wanted to show you. A journey can symbolize life. Black can represent evil or death, like the spider. Water may represent a new beginning, and it's moving. And a lion could be a symbol of courage. Themes everywhere. So many themes. There's never just one theme. There's major themes. There's minor themes. Themes everywhere. It's the central idea of the story, and it usually has some insight into the human condition. In most short stories, the theme can be expressed in a single sentence because it's a short story. In longer works of fiction, the central theme is often accompanied by a number of lesser related themes, and there may be 2 or even more central themes. Themes should be stated as generalizations. So, it's a big picture. It's the big picture. And points of view is our last slide. And the last thing, look at that guy's writing. So busy. Okay, omniscient. Omniscient means all-knowing. The prefix omni means everybody, right? The author's telling the story. He knows how it's going to end. That's exactly the way Of Mice and Men is written in an omniscient narrator. First person. The story is told from the point of view of one of the characters, which is To Kill a Mockingbird, right? Scout's voice from beginning to end. It's first person. And then limited omniscient, third person is told from the viewpoint of a different character, right? So that's it. That's all I have. Let me move myself to the middle if possible. All right. I know it's not the best background. This is me coming to you from the chorus room, doing my flip lessons as best as I can. You will use this video to read your first, second, and third short story and complete the lovely short story worksheet. All right. Be good. Do a good job, and I'll talk to you later. Peace, man.